Thanks for tuning in once again to some more NASCAR Saturday Night Talk on Proline TV as we get ready for the Dollar Tree 301 race at New Hampshire. And we've got the updated speed charts to go over, of course. We also are going to take a look at the updated odds, and we'll have some updated picks. Of course, you can check us out every Tuesday. That's when we have our show. CJ Radoon joins me, and we do it usually 4 o'clock Eastern. We get the opportunity to go over everything early in the week and gets a little bit more detailed than we do in a show like this. So don't forget to check that show out. Link in the description of this video, too, for CJ's work over at rotowire.com. And you can link it right now. If you click that, you'll go right to his page where he has his updated DFS report for the race coming up tomorrow at New Hampshire. All right, so let's take a look at what we got in store for you so far with practice. Oh, and a programming note for tomorrow. There will be a move up 1 hour. Believe it or not, yes, we've been harping on this for years about moving the time whenever there's a weather issue. And for the first time in that we can ever remember, they've done it multiple times where they've moved up the races to beat the weather. So hopefully 1 hour will be enough. So they moved it up to 2 o'clock Eastern. I believe it's on USA Network tomorrow. So good for them. All right. And I think the green flag's 2:10 Eastern, to be exact. All right. So here's practice. We're going to start with practice. Now, remember when we went over the importance of practice and qualifying next gen at New Hampshire, we talked about the fact that it's pretty important. Actually, if you look at it, we have one rain out. That was a couple of years ago. All right. So if you want, you can get rid of that one. So if you do that, then we have 6 remaining sessions, qualifying and practice, between the next gen, the last 4 years. The winning driver started second, and 5th. The practice speeds for the winning driver, 5th, 2nd, and 20th. So that's pretty good. It's only 3 years, but it's pretty good. And when it was a rain out, and we definitely had no practice, we did, of course, have a pole position. The pole position for the winner was in the top 5. It was actually 4th. So you can actually go 7 to 8 if you want to do that. 7 out of 8. That means you better have your car going fast here at New Hampshire in qualifying and practice. And we're going to try to find out if any of these drivers, because I can actually let the cat out of the bag. None of these drivers both qualified and practiced in the top 5. So already that's going to change. Okay, so we do have one driver that's top 6 in both, one driver that is in the top 7 in both, and another driver that's in the top 10 in both. Actually, 2. So we do have that, and the more races you have, the more these trends will open up even more, and there's no way we're going to keep this up with top 5s anyway, right? Oh, and as far as manufacturers, Toyota has been the dominant manufacturer here in next gen, Ford 2nd, Chevy 3rd. And so far, from what I saw today, that hasn't changed. All right. So here's practice. This is what started today. They had one long session. And here is your top 15. Eric Jones. He was able to get in there real late, but no matter. He was the fastest. Other ones that stuck out, Ty Gibbs just keeps on rolling along with some great Saturdays or Fridays, and even some really good Sundays. Bubba gets off to a good start. Joey gets off to a good start. Byron, Elliott, Bell, Larson. Notable names. A little bit further down is Ryan Blaney, but again, with Blaney, that doesn't mean much for Ryan. 16th, Hamlin 18th, same thing. Doesn't mean much. Briscoe, a disappointing 23rd. Hocevar seems to be struggling at this point, as we've been saying. Reddick, speaking of struggling, and there's the rest. So that was practice. Now, as far as manufacturers, Toyota had the top 3, as you can see there. Ford had 2 of the top 5, and Chevy just 1 of the top 7. 0 for 6, actually, if you look at it that way. No, actually, Chevy was 0 for 5. They had 1 in the top 6. Okay. Let's go to qualifying. Where's my qualifying chart? Here we go. And here is, I guess we'll start here. So look at Tyler Reddick. You would have thought the way things were going with Reddick over the last few months and in practice that he wouldn't have a good qualifying effort, and all he did was go out and get the pole. Now look at Josh Berry. He just continues to stay hot. Not a surprise. The way he's been going. William Byron. You got to keep an eye on William Byron. There's Denny Hamlin. Comes back after his slow practice run. Same thing with Blaney. Gibbs again in the top 10. Bell in the top 10. Shane Van Gisbergen with a really good qualifying effort. Larson and Bowman. So you have 3 Hendrick drivers, and the Hendrick drivers, as we noted earlier in the week, got to keep an eye on them. They finally had a really good day last week. All 4 drivers in the top 10. And now they start with 3 of them in the top 10 in qualifying. There's Eric Jones, who is fastest in practice, so that's a solid 11th. Briscoe had a slow day. That was disappointing. Logano, that's surprising considering his practice run and the way he's been going, to get a 21st, but we'll get into that later. Again, Hocevar, just slow. Bubba, that's a disappointing run, but I think there's something about a couple of things that are still, I think, positive about Bubba heading in. Cindric, after a good run in practice, that's a disappointing qualifying effort, but still predictable, as we'll get into. Chase Elliott, after a real good practice run, that's disappointing, yet similar to last year. And Daniel Suarez, he had the slowest day among playoff drivers. Toyota took the reins again in qualifying. 4 of the top 7 and the pole sitter, while Ford and Chevy had 2 of the top 8. Okay. Now, this was our picks from earlier in the week. We give out our picks on Tuesday. I think we're still, I thought we were over $2,000 again after winning with Logano last week, but we're a little bit under. We're at 1,900 and change. So again, $100 each, CJ and I, and we can't duplicate drivers. Obviously, we make our picks on Tuesday. These can't change. And I'll let you know whether or not I kind of feel like I wish I could have my money back. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago, and we hit it with Gibbs over Byron. I'm not really going to, I don't really think I'm going to change with my picks here. And you might maybe be surprised about that with Elliott and Wallace starting way back. But we'll get into it. Let's go ahead and look at the top 10. Okay, so Reddick, this just shows you that Reddick is in a dry spell. If this was a couple of months ago, 3 months ago, say, Reddick would be 2-1 right now, being on the pole. They wouldn't care what his practice speed was. But we have to realistically look at the way he's driving lately and look at the practice run and wonder whether or not we need, whether or not 9-1 is value. He was 21st last year. That was his result. And he started 4th. So even though he's on the pole, not sure I'm going to be convinced that he's going to go out there and with all the bad luck that he's had lately, that he's just going to go out there and win the race after a very slow practice speed. It's just still hard for me to fathom he's going to be able to do that. Josh Berry. Now, look at those odds. They're Austin Dillon-esque. I thought they were low on Tuesday, and it just keeps getting lower. So this is tough because we understand that Josh is a really good play based on how he's been racing and how he's raced at this track. Okay, so matter of fact, I think I think he was one of my picks last week or the week before, but so we're well aware of it. But it's the value aspect that is just not, I mean, now it's just not good at all. I mean, 7-1. You're getting the same odds basically as Denny Hamlin and pretty much Christopher Bell. You're actually getting lower odds than Ty Gibbs. I hope if you like Berry, I hope you were able to get him on Tuesday or before qualifying. Because now value has just been completely thrown out the back door. He was, again, 9th in practice, which is good. He's one of the only 4 drivers were in the top 10 in both sessions. And he has been just as good as any driver here the last 2 years without winning. 2nd last year. And he was right there behind Blaney for the win. And he was 3rd in 2024 from the 10th position. Last year, he started 3rd. He's still a good fantasy option. And if you take him, you're definitely looking at, hey, I got to win or I got to get laps because you're starting 2nd. And I think that's possible, especially with Reddick in front of you. So I think that's something that, I mean, we'll get into the DFS driver lineup a little later, but I think it's a good option. I think it's worth taking the chance. Byron is next. Now, remember, we've been saying this lately and talked about it again on Tuesday. Byron is 30-1 to win the championship. And also, hopefully you remember that last week we posted on our Substack, and there's a link in the description. We can check it out. We just created the Substack a couple of weeks ago here at Proline TV. And we put the fantasy options out there for NASCAR. And just a one report, just for 3 drivers. Said, okay, right now, take a look at these 3 drivers. You want to take them, take advantage of the odds, and do it now. And those 3 drivers were Chase Briscoe, Christopher Bell, and Joey Logano. And then they went out and were with about, 10, 15 laps to go. They were 1, 2, 3. And Logano won. His odds went from, I think they were 25-1 to 15-1, which is still okay for me because Briscoe is still like 15 or 16-1. That's what he was last week. Bell stayed the same, which was like about 9-1. So even though Logano's odds dropped, I'm still highly recommending all 3. And I would definitely make a play for Byron. I said this on Tuesday, that we'll see what Byron does on Saturday, because we're getting to a point with Byron at 30-1 that he's more than capable of, because right now it's back-to-back top 10s. And this is what you have to do at this time of year. You got to slowly get your groove going. And he couldn't have picked a better time to get that started. Now, maybe what happens? Comes out and wins? What if he does? With his pedigree, his experience in big racing, championship racing, he is like one of, I put Bell in there and Byron. If you had to put which drivers are the most talented drivers, youth, kind of combined youth and in their prime, to not win a championship. And it's got to be Byron and Bell. Has to be. So Byron is more than capable of doing this, especially looking at Hendrick and how good they looked last week. And they were very slow. They were very weak for a couple of months collectively. Now, all of a sudden, Hendrick has one really good day last week, and three of the drivers really, I'd even put Elliott in there at least because he had a good practice session. So for the most part, Hendrick is showing you, hey, we've got something going on here. And I think you got to take Byron. That's what I look. So in other words, what I would do is if you really are thinking about Byron, sort of like what we said last week, if you're thinking about taking Christopher Bell at, what was he at, 5-1, something like that, 4-1 last week. And I said, I wouldn't do that. If you like Bell last week, go with the championship 9-1 odds. And hopefully if you took that advice, you're in good shape because you still have Bell to win the championship and you did not lose your money for the race last week. And I'm going to say the same thing about Byron. If you like Byron this week, take him to win the championship because you can win either way. It's a no-lose situation. If he wins, you go, oh, I could have made money. But yeah, you would have made money now. But now you've got him at 30-1 to win the championship, and he's just won a race. And I can guarantee you those odds will be cut in half. He'll be down 12-1 by Monday if he wins this race, or when we talk on Tuesday. Actually, we're going to be talking on Wednesday next week. That's another thing. We are going to move our show next week to Wednesday next week. And I think it's going to be, I think we're doing it in the morning. Yeah, I have to double check that. But we're doing it early enough. It's going to be earlier than 4 o'clock. So it's just keep that in mind. That's on Wednesday. All right, let's move on. Denny Hamlin. And he was 18th in practice, so that's not good. But the 4th in qualifying is good enough. We know he is still the hottest driver on the planet. The only thing is, and we've been nitpicking him lately, and it's been justified because of his results. And I'm going to nitpick him again. He's only led 43 laps in the next gen. And he's without a top 5 in the next gen. Now, the good news is this is his best qualifying run in the next gen. His previous best was 9th last year, and he finished 12th. So at least he's showing he's got a little speed here. But still, I'm going to nitpick and take another driver. But look, it's Denny Hamlin. You're getting 6-1, and that's actually okay. I have no problem with that. That's value to me. SVG. Now, this is interesting because about an hour after qualifying and practice, I was looking up the notes and on J-Ski, and it said SVG to the rear. Something about, I don't know, I forget what it was. But some reason he had to go to the rear. And then just before I went on the air, when I put all of these templates in place, I checked it again, double check it. Nobody's to the rear. So that's a very unusual mistake by J-Ski to do that. So yeah, not sure why they did that. But hey, if he's starting 5th, then and you're getting 40-1, then that is a good deal. We talked on Tuesday about him being a good deal. What was it? What were his odds on Tuesday? Let's see. You were getting 65-1 on Tuesday. Now, his practice speed is not all that great, but it's only 17th. It's not terrible. And here he is starting 5th, and you are only seeing your odds drop 65-40. So you're still getting really good odds for a driver who's starting 5th. And the reason why we talked about him the other day as an interesting long shot is just because of the fact that he's always going to be better at these tracks, shorter style tracks. And last year he qualified 10th, which was a sign that he showed some speed here. Not sure, again, bad result, but don't care about that. That was last year. He was a different driver this year, and he was 11th at Martinsville this year. That's important because Martinsville is the most similar track to New Hampshire. So those are signs. This is another good sign. So I think he's a definite long shot you have to take advantage of, and somebody that you want to also look at for fantasy. There's Christopher Bell. I think Bell's in a really good spot. And when he won his races at New Hampshire, he finished fourth. He started fourth and fifth. So I guess if he wins here, he'll start fourth, fifth, and sixth. So yeah, Bell's in good shape. We all know what's going on with Christopher Bell this year. And I think this is about right. This is what the odds were when the week began. And this is the way they should be now. Ty Gibbs, another fast day today. And once again, you do have to keep in mind with Gibbs, like we've mentioned lately, there are some tracks he has not had good history at, but still has produced this year. Well, it's happening again. His average finish in 3 races without leading a lap at New Hampshire is 26th. That's pretty bad. Now, he has never started inside the top 13. Okay, so that's a sign right there. He's starting 7th. He was also 4th at Martinsville. Another good sign. So, and you're getting 9-1. You're getting much better odds and value than you are getting with Berry at 7-1. And you get, and same thing, you're getting equal odds with Tyler Reddick, who's in a slump. Blaney continues to be the heavy favorite at 2-1. And this is a little bit surprising because it's not like he's on the pole and he was dominating the day. Because remember, when he won last year, not only did Ford dominate, but he was a big part of it. And Blaney was just from qualifying, practice, the race, it was all Ryan Blaney last year. Well, that's not the case this year. He's 8th, and when he practiced 16th. He practiced 5th last year. So yeah, there's like absolutely no value there at all. I mean, that's a really low number. You know, that number in NASCAR should be designated for the hottest of hot drivers. And the situations where it's like, I mean, it's the best you can do outside of an SVG road race, basically. And so, yeah, maybe those odds go up by tomorrow. Maybe it'll be 3-1, 350, and maybe another sports book will give you that. But 2-1, I mean, you're getting. Oh, matter of fact, he was 4-1 on Tuesday, so his odds have dropped, and yet there's no really big reason for that, other than Vegas just doesn't want to get caught and feels really strongly about Ryan Blaney. We'll see if the bettors feel the same way. And Blaney not only dominated last year, but this is also important because he's qualified 8th. He qualified 2nd last year with the win. He qualified 2nd and 5th in the previous 2 races here and finished 22nd and 25th. It wasn't until last year that it all came about for Ryan Blaney at New Hampshire. So really the fact that he's starting 8th, that's his worst starting position since his first race here. Actually, since his first next gen race here 4 years ago. Kyle Larson, 12-1, where he belongs, because he was 9-1, I believe, earlier this week. Yeah. And that was just, you're getting no value with as bad as a run as he's been on. So it's a lot better now. You're getting at least 12-1, considering he's top 10 in qualifying, and also not that far off, 13th in practice. He's got 3 runner-ups here, but remember, he's never won at New Hampshire. So it doesn't make sense really to take Kyle Larson this week, considering his dry spell, considering he hasn't won here at New Hampshire, even though he has the 3 runner-ups. But also keep in mind, he's only led 26 laps in his entire career here. Okay, so it just doesn't seem like a good spot to take him. Fantasy would be a different story. He's gained 36 positions in the last 3 races at New Hampshire, but his starting position was a little bit further back, so there is that. Not a bad idea for fantasy. And 12-1, to be honest with you, I'm not sure you're getting better than those numbers with Kyle Larson in most tracks under his dry spell right now. So, if you're somebody that really likes Larson and feels that, oh, you know what, he's going to win. Hendrick's going. Something's happening with Hendrick. Then 12 to 1 is not. It's not bad. It's not totally bad. I don't think it's a bad idea if you think this week's the week he's going to break his dry spell. And then there's his teammate Bowman at 66 to 1, and that's kind of surprising considering he is where he is 10th, but it's also because he was way back like 90 to 1 on Tuesday. And also historically, Bowman has not been good at this track. He's never led a lap, one top 10 out of 14 races. So probably the best you're going to expect from Bowman is a top 10. Okay, now top contenders. Eric Jones. Definitely feel that even though Eric Jones does not have a great history at this track, he does have a good fantasy history at Next Gen. He's gained 39 positions. Okay, and now I prefer that he would be starting further back, but he's cheap and he's first in practice. So he's been really fast lately in one of his two sessions the last couple of weeks. So something's there. And you're getting a big number at 66 to 1. We know how desperate he is for a win. So I think he's a really good play on both sides. Ross Chastain, we've kind of talked about Ross being a pretty good long shot pick recently because he's starting to show some life. He's as desperate as you're going to be. He's got to win a race, and he's a big number. His average starting position is 21.3. And the fact that he's starting 12th is a good sign because of that. He's also got 4 career top 10s and 4 in his last 5 years overall. He's also gained an average of 6 positions in the Next Gen. So, yes, I think also you're going to get a decent price on him there. So I think Chastain is a good long shot, and he's also not a bad fantasy option. Buescher continues to slide, but 100 to 1. Now we're at a point where it's like, oh, now I can get 100 to 1. Now we're in value territory for Chris Buescher. So I'd be like, okay, he was 11th in practice. I'm okay with that. I still don't like the way things are going with the team in general. And he's never led a lap here, 1 top 5 in his career, but he is 100 to 1. Chase Briscoe, disappointing day. And the question then becomes, are you willing to just ignore the slowness of the day and take advantage of the odds drop from 8 to 1? So you're getting almost double the price now. And the reason why I think it may not be a bad deal is because Chase Briscoe, his average starting position at this track is 23.2. His average finish is 12.8. He has gained 60 positions in the Next Gen. His average finish is 9.2 in the Next Gen with 3 top 10s and a runner-up. He's been 6th or better in 6 of his last 7 races coming in. And even last week, things didn't look all that great on Saturday or Friday. And it was like, well, I don't know. And yet he was there at a track that he had never had a top 10 before. And he was the better car. The only reason Logano beat him, he got out of the pits first. So 14 to 1, I would take it. Then you have Logano, speaking of Joey, 8 to 1, back-to-back, really hard to do. We get that. But here's some good things about Joey Logano. He started 24th in his 1 win here. He's got 2 wins. One of them, he started 24th. Also, his practice speed was 4th. And knowing the way Ford has been at this track and Joey the way he's been lately, I think he's a real good fantasy option. Probably a better fantasy option than expecting back-to-back wins. 8 to 1's okay. I don't think it's great, but it could have been worse, I guess. Just shows you how hot he is all of a sudden. Still 15 to 1, not bad to win the championship. Carson Hocevar, I mean, why would I? Yeah, he's got to have some positive momentum switch soon, or else time's running out. Bubba, meanwhile, look, the trend has continued for a while now. It's a season-long trend. And if the trend continues, then that means he's going to have a top, say, 15 at the least tomorrow. Well, the good news is he's starting 23rd. So you can look at him, especially because considering he was third fastest in practice, you can look at it and go, hey, I can gobble up some really good positions here. This is a really good fantasy driver. And the odds are the same as they were basically on Tuesday. Now, a couple of things. On the bad side, and analyzing this, he's had 2 top 10s here out of 4 in the next gen. And when he finished in the top 10, he qualified in the top 10. So then you would say, well, he didn't qualify in the top 10 here. He qualified like he did the last 2 years when he finished 26th and 34th. But again, fantasy-wise, I think I'm willing to take the chance on that. And as far as gambling that he's going to win the race, probably not going to happen this far back. But again, you're getting 33-1. So he is in long shot territory. Keselowski it's just not happening. Cindric, on the other hand, his average starting position at this track is 25.3. How about that? That was before today. And so he starts 26th. And I think that's important to note because Cindric, and you noticed hopefully before on CJ's picks, he's got Cindric. Well, Cindric is coming off one of his best, if not his best result of the season last week. Not just because he was third, but just how good he looked. He was also 8th at Martinsville earlier this year. And his average, we told you the average starting position, well, his average finish is 18.5. So he's gaining 7 per race, which is in line for him to be a good fantasy driver and somebody that wants a good day because he's really hanging on there in the lead as far as the playoffs are concerned. Again, sort of like Wallace, probably not going to win, but I say he's a good fantasy option. Elliott to close out. Look, this is real disappointing that he's starting 29th. He's my second choice, but and as I was mentioning, I still going to take him. And the reason is because he started 27th last year and finished 5th. Okay. And it wasn't a fluke. He had a good day. And when you take a look at the fact that Hendrick, again, they're pretty much dialed in at this point. He's the winner at Martinsville. That's important. He's coming off a 5th place finish last week. He also has 1 runner-up in the next gen. And so, look, again, same thing. I don't think Elliott's going to win, but at long shot money, I'm willing to roll the dice a little bit. That's what you do at long shots. You don't really necessarily think they're going to win, but you're like, hey, I'm going to throw a few bucks on them just in case because I think they have a long shot chance. Well, just recently, Wallace, Cindric, Elliott, all in that category, and especially fantasy. Definitely fantasy for Elliott. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at the fantasy, what we put together. So this is my initial board. And Logano, I think, is one of the better ones because he's starting 21st. And he also had a fast practice run. And we felt he was going to have a good day anyway. Matter of fact, I don't know if we mentioned Logano, but he's got 10 top 5s out of 27 races. And he was 4th last year from the pole, led 147 laps. This is actually the worst starting position he's had in the next gen. But I think this is good news for fantasy players because he's starting far back. That's how I'm looking at it. There's some of the other long shots, some of the cheap drivers. So if we go down here, I'd even take a look at Noah Gragson. If I was going to look at a driver that I wanted, and I might even do it, that you know what? I want to roll the dice. I want another driver that I can go after, like a top driver. Let's see, who could we knock off here as a for instance? I don't want to knock off any of the cheap drivers necessarily. So let's knock off just Berry, just for instance. All right, so that's 8,800 left. Okay, so let's do another one. Let's do Cindric. All right, is that enough? No, I'm not sure that's enough, but let's start this way. For instance, so if I'm looking for another top driver here, the ones that intrigue me the most, Bell, obviously, my top pick. I got Briscoe because he's 17th, and I think that's strong. But let's just go with Bell. All right, so that leaves me with 6,000. So I can come down here and I throw in Gregson. And if I do that, now I've got two top drivers. I've got Bell and Logano. Now you could decide on a number of drivers. You can decide on any of them. I mean, a lot of these guys, I wouldn't do Larson because of the way he's driving. If I'm going to do, I'd rather just take Larson to win the race, to tell you the truth. But Gibbs is just much more dialed in. And then I would probably even look at Hamlin and Blaney, but Briscoe probably sticks out for me the most because he's starting 17th. And I think he's going to wind up having another good day. So you can do a number of drivers. But if you do that, then these are the best options, I think. And the reason I mentioned Gregson is because he just signed the new deal, and I think that matters. And I think that, I think things are going to start changing for him. And I think they already have in little steps. Last year is a good sign too. He started 33rd and finished 16th. And last week he had a good run. So, and then qualifying for him, where did he qualify? Like 20th or something like that. And I think his qualifying and practice speeds weren't all that bad. I don't remember what they are. So the bottom line is, I think there's a little tiny bit of momentum going on with Noah Gragson. And that's why I'm like, hey, you know what? I'll put him in there. Why not? For someone that's pretty cheap, because this way I can go out and get a couple big drivers. And all I need is to finish in the top 15. And if you get from 19th, you could do that, I'm okay. McDowell is another one you might want to consider. He's starting 15th, and McDowell was 12th in practice, and he's been really good in fantasy in the last 3 races here. He has improved 17 spots in the last 3 races. 8th last year, 15th, and 13th. Those are his results the last 3 years at New Hampshire. So that's good for McDowell. And his starting positions were 25th, 17th, and 11th. So I think he's another one. I just think at 15th, you're asking me to really feel that McDowell is going to maybe get a top 10. So that's a big ask, but 6,100, that's not bad. That's a pretty cheap driver that I would definitely consider. Matter of fact, I could probably even do that. I think, no, I don't have enough. No, I don't. I would need Gregson's 54. I would need 600, and I just would be out $100. I'd have to drop someone else. And here's the other guy, Shane, at 6,900. I mean, Shane's a good option too. So you got some good cheap options. Even Suarez, I know his practice speed was bad, but 35th. And I have a hard time believing that Suarez is just going to. I mean, I can. All he has to do is finish in the top 20, and I've gained a lot of positions. But yeah, his practice, his whole day was really crap. That's why it's hard for me to pull the trigger there at that range when I could just go ahead and take a couple other drivers that we've already talked about. And where is Suarez here? Suarez, where do I have his recent history. Yeah, nothing. It's pretty bad, to tell you the truth. So probably, yeah, I'll pass on that. Bowman's cheap. Driving Hendrick, starting 10th. But are you going to gain much positioning? I mean, doubtful. So that's, yeah, I probably, yeah. And I think, and look, Berry, the thing with Berry, that's what I was saying before. The thing with Berry, he's a little bit priced higher than I would have liked at 8,200. But I could, like, let's say if I wanted to swap out Berry for Elliott or Wallace, I can do that. And the reason I would do that is, now look, I'm obviously going to get a lot more positioning with Elliott and Wallace. The only way that I would do that, and I still might do it, the only way I would do that is if I believe Berry is going to have a race where he could win and lead laps. He's got to lead laps, and he has to have a chance to win. So if I really believe that, and I do, then it's something that I think I have to consider. But 8,200, it's unfortunately a big price. So if I was going to go down that route, it would have to be just on this group here, I would have to knock out Elliott or Wallace. And if I was going to do that, I would, man, that's kind of tough because Wallace was, well, actually they were both good in practice. So I would go with Elliott. So I would drop Wallace and I would go with Berry. And maybe that's what I'll do. So anyway, I hope I've given you enough options to go with. If you have any other questions, or let me know if you have a good bargain out there that you would like to use or you're going to use for whatever reason, let us know. And wrapping up with our picks. So these, again, I'm going to stick with Elliott and Wallace's long shots. Bell, still my top pick. So who else, now that the odds have changed, I would definitely go with SVG as a long shot. I would definitely go Jones and Cindric. Those three. I know CJ has Cindric, I don't. So I would go with those three long shots right now. And I would go Chastain too at 50-1. Those four. SVG, Chastain, Jones, and Cindric. So I'd add those as long shots. But winning the race, I do think you have to be up front. The only driver I'm going to go with for a top contender up front that's not up front is Briscoe. I love the fact that I'd be getting 14-1. So Briscoe would be the only one that is not up front. Otherwise, yeah, I think it's going to come from the top 8, to be honest with you. From Reddick to Blaney. It's going to be one of those drivers. SVG is a long shot. And if I'm going to narrow it down, Bell would be first, of course. Second, I might just go back to Gibbs second. I might go with Gibbs second. I'm going to put, because Blaney, I'm just not touching Blaney at 2-1. That's just ridiculous. I'm not doing it. I don't care. He's my favorite driver. I don't have to win. I don't have to make money every time he wins a race. So I just can't touch Blaney at 2-1. So I'd go Bell, Gibbs, and then, I might just go with Byron. I might just do that, but I don't know. I just have a hard time going with Josh Berry at 7-1. I'd like to go with Berry. I think Berry is definitely the pick that you should go with. If you didn't know what Berry did the rest of the season, and you just looked at the last few weeks, and then his history at this track, I'd be on top of Berry every day. But it's just not, that's not the way it works. So best of luck out there to everybody. We'll see everybody again on Wednesday. And then we'll talk about Daytona and a Saturday night race. So yeah, unfortunately we have our show is actually losing a day, and then we're losing a day because of Saturday. So we've crunched a little bit for next week, but hey, it's Daytona. And I'll be on Friday night to do the Friday night update following practice and qualifying. And then that's it. And it's going to be fun to take a look and see after this race tomorrow what's going on with any chance at all for a driver to sneak into the playoffs with a dramatic win. It's not looking possible right now. I mean, it's not looking probable right now. But if there's a chance, well, then some of these drivers, like an Eric Jones, someone is going to have to go out there and win on Saturday and make it interesting for next week. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up. If you're a football fan, don't forget to check me out over on the Arledge Football Network, 5 days a week of coverage. And we still have several more interviews to go with our college football. These are interviews that I've been conducting since May. And we have right now, I believe we're at about 90% Power 4 teams. I have interviewed someone from every Power 4 team except 6 teams. And we're going to be doing USC. That's one of the teams we haven't done yet. And we're lining up. We're trying to line up right now. We're in communication for, we have Indiana, so we're going to get that. We've locked in USC. And we also, there's only one more team left that we haven't done. And another team it looks like that we're going to lock up is Florida State. But the last big team that we haven't locked up yet, that I do not have somebody, like I'm trying to even schedule them, is LSU. That's it. We haven't done Maryland and Cincinnati or Minnesota or Nebraska. But those, we might not be able to get to them all. I mean, we've tried, but the point is there's a lot of interviews that you could check out in the library at Arledge if you want to find out about those teams. Same thing in the NFL. We've done all 32 NFL teams post-draft. Now it's all about the season starting. And check out in the next couple of days, we're going to have a Big 12 season preview video coming out. I'm either going to do that tomorrow or Monday. And if I do it Monday or Tuesday, it'll be during the show most likely. But I don't know. I haven't thought about that yet. I still might just do it as a standalone, live maybe. I don't know. But we're going to be doing 4 conference previews in the Power 4. We're going to start with the Big 12. And we've got a whole bunch of information we're going to share with you regarding players and teams and everything. It's great information if you're into college football, especially. And then we do the NFL too, because we got the extra week in the NFL. Actually, an extra couple of weeks in the NFL. So if you're a football fan, check that out. And also here at Proline, because we're going to really start diving into the NFL and college football on a weekly basis, starting on Thursday. I believe it's this upcoming Thursday. Mark Lawrence makes his return to the Playbook ATS podcast. And we also have Jim returning to Dom DeMarco's in Las Vegas. I believe that's in 2 weeks. I have to double check, but that's in September. And then we'll have an every week show on Proline. But between Proline and Arledge, if you're a football fan, trust me, it's going to be wall-to-wall coverage. You're not going to find anywhere else. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a great great day tomorrow in New Hampshire. Best of luck that the weather holds up. And we'll see everybody again